Hi, all. Welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. We have Deepak and Bumsy in our call with us. So, we covered the manufacturer side and the supply chain of the crowds, right? What could have been done to avoid it? Now comes to the most important part where it's the end customer who's going to be directly impacted at a business level, real world level, ground level. Now, let's say there was this case in which one of my friend's mom was given the wrong medicine when they went to the hospital pharmacy. The doctor wrote the medicine correct. What came out was that there was a medicine between a fever or an anti-inflammatory medicine versus a diabetes. They got mixed up and the wrong one was given. So imagine a diabetes medicine given to somebody who doesn't have diabetes, which is like, and then to the extent that the person got more close to coma, luckily nothing fatal happened and they recovered. And the irony is they had a professional nurse to look after my friend's mom also. Okay. It took them around 2 to 3 weeks before they realized something. It was a little late, but not too late, and they recovered. Now, in this kind of a scenario, Deepa, right? The ultimate end user scenario that you look at it, right? It's is the nurse responsible or is my friend responsible or my friend's mom, okay, who has a vision problem, right? Or can't is not well versed. What is how does it play out? Who is really responsible for this? But we know that people are in trouble. That's the one thing very clear.
So yeah, so let's break it down a little bit more. Say doctor did the right job, they wrote the right medicine, and everything was fine up to this point. Right now, the pharmacy gave the wrong medicine because of whatever the let's say medicines look exactly similar in some way, and it's easy to mistake. Right, so let's say that fault is with the manufacturer, right? Because they look so similar, and it is possible to get. But still, the accountability is with the pharmacist to find the right medicine. Although they are very similar, they are six. So that fault happened there, right? So that we will see the cascading fault. So now the medicine has been given. Somebody who accepted the medicine, they just trusted the pharmacist and said, "Okay, these are the medicines," and they didn't read it carefully enough that this medicine is actually different from what is being given to them. So that is another person, right? So now nurse who is expected to administer those medicines is expected to take the medicine, classify, say whatever are these the right medicines, and they give them. Right. So now ultimate responsibility has failed at the last point, which is the nurse who's expected to read the prescription and administer the medicine. Right. And that could be anybody. I'm not saying just the nurse. Anybody who is taking care of that patient is actually accountable for that part, at least that giving medicine, and you're just because it is expected that you'll follow the prescription. So in this case, it is definitely the last point which has failed with the last point where it should have been captured. Right? This is the wrong medicine. After that, obviously, once it starts, nobody's questioning it until something goes wrong. System breaks down, then you go back to say, now let us find the root cause, and that's what we're doing now. So it does. So last point is still very important that you need to check the prescription and match it to what actually you have got. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that responsibility cannot be absorbed. Right. Although the cascading effect starts from the manufacturer printing it wrong or making it confusing enough, right? You can lay it back there, but it does not absolve the last person in the chain to actually check what you're getting is what you're supposed.
Okay.
So that's the end user's responsibility in this case, end user being the person assisting the patient to get the medicine.
The end user or in our case, it would be the IT who's responsible for it. Now, we say that
They cannot be absolved of 100% trusting whatever the system is. Now, I know in the whole DevOps world, there is something called as an error budget and all those things. So where you go by the history of that deployment, say how many deployments have failed in the past and say, can I let it go? So now in this case, there is zero tolerability of failing. Right? So always have to check. then this is because it's a kernel level thing, and there is no excuse for not testing it out.
So I just wanted to bring up this other thing for Vamsi, right? So this is a recent post which is pretty fresh. It's about a woman who was supposed to talk on a conference on the funny thing is it's about UX and UI. And the thing is like her profile picture actually showed as if she's having a inner wear, whereas the actual profile is on the left hand side. Okay. And the conference hosts, they were apologetic. They took it down. They changed it. Fine. And she actually kind of says that this happened because of the reason that, so she does some more analysis and then says, this is the original photo. The cropped photo looks like this. The generated one is the additional thing which has the other impacted stuff. Now, in this case, right, the product itself, which was made by the how should I say? The product itself, right, was made by I don't know which is the technology provider for this. Okay, which generated this image. Now, in a scenario like this, Vamsi, okay, how could handle something like this? I'm sure they did their own validation to say, oh, this is a trustable image processing service. And probably the end user who did this is some junior level person sitting, is an event manager, probably layer low in the supply chain. All that person's job was to receive an email from a customer, adjust the photo and put it on the website, and probably that person would use some content management system. They wouldn't even know what a website thing is, right? Like,
I think,
what gives? Who is responsible in this, right? It gets really confusing.
yeah, first I want to comment on this is one of the, Kumaran, this is one of the mother of all ironies. Elizabeth, who is the, in this case, can we call her victim,
Yeah.
is supposed to be a speaker in a conference about user experience converged with
AI.
the AI. Okay. And she became victim, or at least got offended that the AI technology generated image did something that she didn't like. First of all, it is not her image. It doesn't matter whether the right. So Kumaran, so this is a very interesting example that you gave, the one you showed. It is a mother of all ironies because the person in this case was supposed to attend a conference on user experience converged with AI, and AI generated image created something which was not representative of herself. Now, in this case, you are absolutely right. It got delegated down to somebody whose job is to make the image fit into the conference brochure, right? And that person did what she thought was the right thing. Now, the responsibility of the software, it also did exactly what it is supposed to do. We cannot say that it did anything wrong or right. The next step after anything produced out of the AI should be a validation step. And whether that validation could be AI powered, AI assisted, human powered with AI assisted, it could be any combinations in that spectrum. But end of the day, there should be a validation step that should have caught that and could have fixed that before it went into wherever it got published. Now, is that something where if we in this analogy, if we consider that end user as the IT responsible to produce that image and validate that image, yes, it's their responsibility. We cannot absolve them completely from taking the responsibility, because end of the day, the technology is impacting somebody, or it affected somebody, right or wrong, right? So that is how I feel about it.
That okay. So we kind of zeroed in on IT, right? But one thing really bothers me is that, or I don't know how, is in this case, right? For example, imagine it's a publishing house. There's going to be literally hundreds of photos that's getting published at a very simple level, right? And I would take a strong bet that IT doesn't have the competency to qualify whether the output produced by it is good or bad. Okay, it
That
is
is
a
right for that is right for most situations, right?
Right.
So you ultimately what they call as user acceptance testing, right? So who is the actual user of the technology or who's the actual consumer? That is the only person who can actually finally test, right? In this case, that this was IT was the final consumer because IT is responsible for deploying that, and they are the final consumer in the chain, right? And then our medicine chain.
But in this case, it would be the marketing department who's the final consumer,
yes,
right?
yes.
Not
So
IT.
they're not IT,
Yeah.
not IT.
It's not right. It's
So
not right.
they're definitely not IT.
But the
Because-
fact that there is a validation step missing in the workflow,
Yeah.
if you draw the analogy to the CrowdStrike, back to the core problem that we were discussing, the analogy is somebody who's allowing the software to run on the end devices could have caught had they been in control of that workflow rather than completely delegating or trusting
Ah.
that partner to do it.
Yeah, in fact, most just to make it very specific to that whole fiasco which we had, is in most situations, all such deployments are done to a test group before it is deployed to
Exactly.
any other patches. Right. So all these patches, this has been there since Patch Tuesday, since ever. It is always deployed to a small number of test machines where it is checked for. I mean, the test may run for only for 1 hour. So the delay of 1 hour is not going to means that is acceptable in most situations. Right. So if it runs for 1 hour, because in this case, if it started failing immediately after deployment, right? So
Correct.
it would have been definitely caught because some bugs may take longer to run, memory leaks and other things, right? But this would have been definitely caught if their test machine. That is why a lot of organizations they have a sort of policy that they will not deploy everything immediately. But in this case, it seems like they were deployed, and and that's also the reason why nobody wants to be on the the latest software, because all these mission critical applications, yeah, they cannot be on latest because they cannot trust this whole process of deployment immediately, right? So that's the standard process in most mission critical applications, that they will not deploy anything
Right.
out of the box unless it has gone through at least some level of validation once.
It's an auto update. End of the day, we all know most of the technologies today allow auto update. But do we do the databases auto update? Oh, maybe minor patches it is allowed. That too during the maintenance window. It won't get pushed. For example, if you use RDS or equivalent technologies in various public clouds, nobody does the database patching, even though it is available from the vendor in real time. They wait for the maintenance window and that gets applied there. Basic risk management, right?
I think at the end user, right? One is the one who's executing the service. Within that, they are a consumer and they are a provider. And then there is the actual end user, in this case, the marketing exec there.
Right.
And I think probably it's kind of interesting that we would have to do the actual end user, right? Always needs to do a candle test, right? Now,
Okay.
what a candle test is, we will
Can
talk about it in the next, or the ones who are interested could actually message me. The end user is also has, I would say, equal responsibility of using a service as much as the provider who has given the service.
absolutely.
Like, there was this funny thing which Vamsi was talking about a little bit. I've heard that there was a guy who put Tesla on autopilot, went to the back seat and went to sleep.
Can you?
That
That's a great
be
point.
be the stupidity, right? I mean, like, come on.
Yeah. Can you trust? Can you trust? Do you want a trust a vendor to create any technology and trust it blindly and not do your job? Even Tesla, their what they call as full self-driving, however accurately named or not, totally recommends they enforce by various passive and active notifications to have always the driver keep their hands on the wheel at any
Ah,
given point of time. And in fact, they also have this kind of a punishing mechanism by deactivating that feature if somebody doesn't follow that and hold the wheel.
oh, okay.
So this is where, had CrowdStrike in this example been not allowing that kind of widespread deployment, with a policy that if the fleet is 10,000 servers in the enterprise,
Mm.
if they had a policy as a even vendor holds a responsibility.
Could have, yeah.
They
correct.
they could have, they know, they have a cognizance, because end of the day that is the technology. They have cognizant what is the fleet size of the employees or the end machines. It should be deployed only at a certain point, a certain percentage, as you say, candlelight canary, before it gets widely propagated.
Thanks, Deepak, Vamsi. We
You
are at this end, and I think it's a continuing story.
Thank you.